Hello students and friends. Welcome to Homeopathy Medicines. Today in this homeopathic Materia Medica lesson, I will discuss about homeopathic medicine Argentum metallicum. Before starting this video, please subscribe to this channel for Learn Homeopathy Online Free and Homeopathy Materia Medica. We need support from you to make this channel more beautiful and more informative. Now going to discuss about Argentum metallicum, its uses and symptoms. Emaciation, a gradual drying up, desire for fresh air, dyspnea, sensation of expansion and left-sided pains are characteristic. The chief action is centered on the articulations and their component elements, bones, cartilages, and ligaments. Here the small blood vessels become closed up or withered and carious affections result. They come on insidiously, lingering, but progress. The larynx is also a special center for this drug. Mental, hurried feeling, time passes slowly, melancholy. Head, dull paroxysmal neuralgia over left side, gradually increasing and ceasing suddenly. Scalp very tender to touch. Vertigo, with intoxicated feeling, on looking at running water. Head feels empty, hollow. Eyelids red and thick. Exhausting coryza, with sneezing. Pain in facial bones. Pain between left eye and frontal eminence. Throat, raw, hawking, gray, jelly-like mucus, and throat sore on coughing. Profuse and easy morning expectoration. Respiratory, hoarseness, aphonia. Raw, sore feeling when coughing. Total loss of voice of professional singers. Larynx feels sore and raw. Easy expectoration, looking like boiled starch. Feeling of raw spot near suprasternal fossa. Worse from use of voice. Cough from laughing. Hectic fever at noon. On reading aloud, must hem and hawk. Great weakness of chest, worse left side. Alteration in timbre of voice. Pain in left lower ribs. Back, severe backache, must walk bent, with oppression of chest. Urine, diuresis. Urine profuse, turbid, sweet odor. Frequent urination. Polyuria. Extremities, rheumatic affections of joints, especially elbow and knee. Legs weak and trembling, worse descending stairs. Involuntary contractions of fingers, partial paralysis of forearm, writer's cramp. Swelling of ankles. Male, crushed pain in testicles. Seminal emissions, without sexual excitement. Frequent micturition with burning. Female, ovaries feel too large. Bearing down pain. Prolapse of womb. Eroded spongy cervix. Leukorrhea foul, excoriating. Palliative insurus of uterus. Pain in left ovary. Climacteric hemorrhage. Sore feeling, throughout abdomen, worse by jarring. Uterine disease with pain in joints and limbs. Modalities, worse from touch, toward noon. Better in open air, cough at night when lying down, opposite high ossi. We will take up the study of metallic silver. No wonder that this is a very deep-acting remedy, for it has been used symbolically, and medically throughout all history. It has been a valuable substance throughout all history. It is an antipyretic, and from its symptoms I believe it to be an antipsychotic. It goes deep into the life. Especially affects the nerves, nerve sheaths. Has complaints along the nerves. All cartilages in their body are affected by it. It produces a hypertrophy of cartilages, a thickening of the cartilaginous portions of joints, of the cartilage of the ears, and of the nose. Produces cartilaginous growths and tumors, infiltrations. It affects the nerve substance. It is a deep organic remedy. It is more than an ordinary remedy, for it affects all there is of man. In those nerve fibers especially that carry messages. It affects the brain in a very profound manner, bringing about changes and a gradual softening. A strange feature about it in its general action upon man is, that it singles out mostly the intellectual faculties. It scarcely disturbs his affections, only makes slight and vague changes in his voluntary system. But the memory, The intellectual part of man is disturbed increasingly to imbecility. In great sufferings, and it is full of suffering, it affects his ability to reason. In nearly all the headaches and pains in the back, and the rending, tearing pains that it produces over the body, it disturbs his memory and reasoning faculties, disturbs his ability to think. And it comes on in persons who are in the habit of laboring with the intellectual faculties: businessmen, students, readers, and thinkers. Reasoners come to a point when they can no longer reason, and the slightest mental effort brings on vertigo. He is fatigued. All symptoms are worse after sleep. Instead of being rested for the day, he wakes in the morning with mental fatigue and weakness, so that he can hardly move, and it is with great difficulty that he gets himself together for a mental or physical effort of another day. If he undertakes to do any more mental work, he gets a headache. Headache mostly in the front of the head, but also in the occiput. Another strange feature about it, it is full of rending, tearing pains along the nerves, predominantly of the lower extremities. Tearing, as if the nerves would be torn in pieces during rest. Cold, damp weather, stormy weather will bring on rheumatism, not so much with swelling, although it has that, but pains apparently in the cartilages, and pains along the nerves. And these pains are so severe that he cannot keep still. Hence, it has a rheumatic state from cold, damp weather, from becoming chilled, in the joints and in the nerves, so that he walks and walks. Many symptoms are better from motion and especially walking. So tired and exhausted, but the pain is so severe that it drives him to walk. These pains are many times palliated by copious draughts of coffee, and this will suppress the sickness, and leave upon him all sorts of difficulties, under which he is threatening with breakdown, and in time he becomes almost useless. Mental weakness, physical prostration, rending, tearing pains, affections of the joints, the cartilages of the joints, tearing pains along the bones, and he is really a wreck, an old broken down constitution when he is yet young. A man of 40 is like one of 80. All these pains are better from motion. Again, it is full of infiltrations. Inflamed cartilages infiltrate and form into hard knots. A superabundance of cartilaginous tissue, so that round about the joints the cartilages are thickened. In the ear and nose the cartilage is thickened. The infiltration that belongs to epithelioma. It has been a wonderful palliative in serous, and in epithelioma. It has cured epithelioma. It is on record as curing an epithelioma of the cervix uteri. Ulceration everywhere, but ulcers that have their beginning in the cartilaginous tissue, and break out through the cellular tissue, and copiously discharge. The ulcers infiltrate at their base, and become hard. Another marked feature is that it affects both testes, but it has a predominant action in the right. The left ovary and the right testis. Such things are singular, that in one sex it should produce symptoms in one side of the body, and in the other sex on the opposite side. It has cured all sorts of tumors, enlargement of the ovary, and infiltrations of the tissues. It is a chilly remedy. Wants to be kept warm, and its pains are ameliorated by heat. Its headaches are ameliorated by heat, are ameliorated by pressure, by bandaging. I have many times cured these symptoms in headaches when the patient had the head wrapped up. Now, in this medicine we class the patient as one having a lack of vital heat. He wants to be warm. Likely to be lean, growing increasingly lean, increasingly nervous, increasingly sensitive. Takes on all sorts of whims. Women needing silver very often do such strange and unaccountable things in, compare Argentum nitricum, their nervous states that they bar out all sympathy of their friends, and are called hysterical. Deep-seated trouble of the nerves. Growing increasingly sensitive to surroundings. Now, the mental state of Argentum met is just such as is aroused by confusion, just such as is aroused by the emotions, just such as the loss of balance from fear, from anger, from fright, from disturbance of the mind. Because this patient is so sensitive to his surroundings and so disturbed by annoyances. With his pains he becomes delirious, and it is not that involuntary delirium that we see in low forms of fever, but he becomes wild and full of rage. He takes on mental excitement, rage, and a state in which he talks nonsense with great rapidity. Sometimes there is a stage of unusual excitement in his conversation, all mixed up about the character of his thought. All of the time looks as if he were intoxicated, and he flies from one subject to another, and prattles. For a moment appearing to be very intense and active in mind, and forgets all that he was talking about. In society indisposition to talk. Because he is incompetent. He is tired mentally and he forgets what he is talking about. Loses the thread of his discourse, and he dreads to talk because he gets complaints while talking. If compelled to answer, he becomes dizzy, and feels strange all over, and has nervous shakes or shocks. And shocks go over him when tired, like an electric shock. It comes suddenly, but the most favorable time for that to come is just when he wants to go to sleep. He thinks, now he is away from all the troubles of the day and can rest, and the instant sleep comes over him he is roused from head to foot by a shock, and another one, and another one. Sometimes the whole night he jerks from head to foot. His limbs jerk up. His lower limbs twitch and jerk, then he gets out of bed and walks, tries to walk it off. This comes out in the proving of Argentum nitricum, but it belongs as much to Argentum met, and Argentum met has long cured it. In Hahnemann's study of the remedy he lays down the importance of shock on going to sleep. Shocks in the limbs. But it is an electric shock that causes the whole body to jerk. Anxious about the health. Thinks he is certainly breaking down, for he is growing weaker. He cannot walk, though he is growing increasingly restless. He cannot exercise mentally or physically without distress. From meditation or as soon as he enters a warm room he becomes dizzy, and that is an exception belonging to a few of the head troubles and the sensorium. He usually is sensitive to cold. In the house when the room is close he becomes dizzy. It has been an astonishing feature in this remedy that precisely at the hour of noon a great many troubles come on, and the pains and aches, chills, headaches, pains in the ovary at noon, dizziness with vertigo as if intoxicated. The headaches are frontal and occipital. One-sided brain affections. One-sided headaches. Violent neuralgia in the head upon one side at a time, as if deep in the brain, as if involving one half of the brain. Mostly the headaches have been on the right side, the one-sided headaches. Those broken down patients that have become prostrated and overwrought by exposure to the sun. Upon the scalp, the ears, here and there upon the body, itching places. Itching and burning, like frost bites. It has an itching and burning like agaricus, in the toes, in the ears, and he scratches the part, and scratching does not relieve it until the skin is off, until it oozes, but no relief from scratching. Rawness in the ears, kept up by constantly boring and scratching in the ears. Scratching the skin off because of the tingling, itching and burning. Another strange feature is that about the eyes silver affects the lids more than the globe. It affects the sight, producing dimness of vision, and loss of vision, but it produces infiltration of the lids, thickening of the lids until they are almost as hard as cartilage. The mucous membrane is infiltrated and hard, and the eyelids cannot be opened. They spasmodically close. They cannot be pulled apart except by violence. It is a blepharitis, with thickening and infiltration. Copious discharges. Now, as we strike this as a catarrhal region, let me say that all through the remedy we will find passive catarrhal discharges. In some instances thick and yellow, but at the same time passive, a passive state of the mucous membrane. But the characteristic, the principal discharge of Argentum met, is grey, thick, tenacious mucus. He expectorates from the lungs, and from the air passages, from the trachea and from the larynx, grey mucus. Grey mucus from the vagina, grey mucus from the urethra, grey mucus from the eyes. Only in a few instances does it have yellow discharges. When ulceration takes place, as in the larynx and on the eyelids, We have from this ulceration thick, yellow discharges, but from the ulcerated mucous surfaces it will generally be found to be grey, except in the urethra. It has cured old cases of chronic gonorrhea. If we get the general character of the remedy, we know what to expect when it goes to each region. If we do not know the general character of a remedy, we do not know what to expect, and if we get into a region where we have the very opposite of it, we know then that that is a particular, and does not conform to its generals. But first of all we have to single out what is general, what may be expected, what belongs to the nature of the remedy, so that when we see its opposites we may recognize it and know it as an opposite, as a particular, and as an exception. Here is one of the characteristic features of Argentine itching. Scratching until bleeding, in the ear. Now, this itching involves the whole outside ear, and extends into the ear, so he scratches the ear until it is red, and swollen, and bleeds. The cartilage of that ear is lumpy and nodular, is infiltrated. The cartilages of the nose are also infiltrated. Argentum met. Cures many of these cases that are operated on when they have some portion of the inside of the nose removed by the surgeon, so that the patient can breathe better. Thickening of the bones in the nose, the thickening and building up of the mucous membrane and the cellular tissue in the nasal passages. Argentum met. Is often indicated in such cases. This remedy has a very decided action. Infiltrations go on thickening and hardening, and then we have serum in joints. This is one of the most important remedies to know in the necrosis of cartilages everywhere in the body. But with it must go such nervous and mental symptoms as the remedy has, such as I have described. The patient looks sickly, pale, careworn, tired. A broken down patient. An Argentum met. Patient is a sickly one who should have had a homeopathic doctor years ago, but one who can be patched up and benefited now if he has not gone too far. Painful tension and drawing in the throat. Throat feels raw and sore during expiration. This is extended into the larynx. Painful soreness from breathing. Rawness from coughing in the larynx. Great quantities of grey mucus expectorated easily. Tension in the forces on the right side. Argentum met. Has abdominal troubles. Bruised, sore feelings in the abdomen. If these progress from a catarrhal inflammation of the mucous membranes to a general congestion of all the tissues in the abdomen, diarrhea comes on, or constipation of the most inveterate character, tuberculosis of the mesenteric glands, emaciation, weakness, trembling, paralytic feelings here and there in the body, painful soreness in the whole abdomen in connection with the urinary troubles. It is a low form of tissue making, such as tuberculosis, cancerous affections, infiltrations, such as we have mentioned, dry stool, like sand, undigested stool, very offensive, catarrhal inflammation of the mucous membranes of the urinary passages, the whole urinary tract. It cures albuminuria, it cures diabetes, with sugar in the urine, and many of the broken down conditions of the kidneys. Low, broken down constitutions. Enormous quantities of whey-like urine. A copious flow of urine. Children lose the urine in sleep. Broken down, nervous constitutions lose the urine in sleep. It has a very decided action upon the genitalia of both male and female. In the male it especially affects the testes and the mucous tract. It infiltrates the testes, producing hardness. In the text it reads, crushed pain the right testicle. Clothing increases pain on walking. Inflammation with infiltration. Chronic orchitis. It has cured a very suspicious testicle believed to be a cancerous affection, which began in the epididymis, following a gonorrhea. Inflammation, great hardness, pain, swelling, burning and stinging. Another symptom here is of great importance. Yellowish-greenish gonorrhea of an indolent character from the beginning, of 8 months standing. That clinical symptom has been verified. Now, it is a natural feature of gonorrhea for the discharge to be yellow, or yellowish-green, and thick in the early stage, for it then to become lighter and lighter until it is whitish thick or thin, growing lighter in character until it becomes white and gleety. Argentum met is the remedy when the discharge remains yellow. The pain has all ceased, and generally when the pain ceases the discharge soon begins to be lighter, but in the Argentum met cases the pain ceases, it becomes a passive discharge, the urethra loses its sensitiveness to pain, and the mucous membrane loses its sensation to a great extent, but the thick greenish or yellowish discharge remains. Now, in these thick passive discharges that are long-standing, old cases, we are very much troubled to find remedies. These old stubborn cases that still remain yellow, and still remain thick, they will not yield to ordinary remedies, they come under a peculiar class of remedies. Argentum met, alumina, alumen, sulfur, ones not usually thought of in the early period, but the general constitutional state of the patient forms the character of his symptoms. In the female we have ovarian troubles, infiltration, hardness, cystic troubles, cystic ovaries, that are cured by this remedy, ovarian tumors, very large, hard indurated ovaries, especially the left. The right testicle, the left ovary. Pain in the left ovary and back. Prolapsus, with pain in left ovary. Pain in the small of the back while sitting. The cures have been predominantly of the left ovary, although it cures complaints of both. Another grand feature found in this remedy is weakness, relaxation of muscles through the whole body, trembling, and now, if that thought is applied, if that feature of the remedy is observed in the pelvic organs, it will be seen that those muscles that hold up the uterus, the broad ligament, etc., are in a state of relaxation, they allow the uterus to sag. In other words, we get prolapsus. You will be astonished to know that homeopathic remedies are wonderful in their ability to create tonicity, and thereby restore the prolapsed uterus to its normal position, and to remove the dragging down feeling women generally describe, a sensation as if the inner parts were being forced out. All of these are sensations that accompany a prolapsus. Argentum is one of the medicines. In fact, the whole pelvic system is engorged, increased in weight, tissues infiltrated, likely to be hardened. Cervix congested and indurated. Takes on ulceration. Greatly enlarged, congested. It has been a palliative medicine in epithelioma of the cervix, with burning, stinging pains, copious, putrid, yellowish-green and bloody discharge. It has cured a tendency to menorrhagia, copious menstrual flow. The relaxation that must be present in hemorrhages will soon be overcome when the symptoms agree, when the general state is present. Ulcer of the uterus, discharge purulent, ichorous. Sometimes bloody water, with unbearable stench. It is a medicine of great use in horribly offensive leukorrhea, Kali-ARS, Kali-P. Neck of the uterus very much swollen, presented a spongy mass, deeply corroded with ulcers in different directions. Where it was given in case of cirrhosis of the uterus, it says, in less than 3 days foul smell was lost entirely. When a remedy acts in that manner, it actually stops the growth. In fact, a cancerous state that would go on to its termination in 14 to 16 months will go 2 or 3 years and the patient remain comfortable. The remedy that is indicated stops the ulceration, it checks the destruction, and keeps the patient comfortable and with her friends for years. In cancerous affections the state of life is very low, the state of order is generally beyond restoration. Then we come to a state of the larynx. It is a wonderful laryngeal medicine. Loss of voice with inflammation, from overuse of the voice, such as occurs in singers and talkers. One who is compelled to use the larynx much. It is then a paralytic weakness of the vocal cords. Running all through this remedy there is aggravation from any little prolonged exertion, a paralytic tendency with aggravation from exertion. So it is in the lungs, in every part of the body. And then comes the loss of voice. Now, apply all that we know of its ability to infiltrate. We have tuberculosis of the larynx. Singers, public speakers, who are broken down, nervous, of poor digestion, bad inheritance, take on tuberculosis of the larynx, and the voice is lost. Ulceration follows. And this trouble finally goes into the lungs. They emaciate and get night sweats. Loss of voice. Generally of a painful character. Again, colds settle in the larynx, cannot speak a loud word, constant tickling in the larynx, provoking cough. Rawness and soreness in upper part of larynx. Laughing aggravates the coughing. Laughing will cause tickling in the larynx, and he will scrape out quantities of grey mucus if the irritation is in the smaller air passages, in the lungs. Laughter will set him to coughing, and he will scrape out grey mucus over the bifurcation of trachea, arrow spot, when using the voice, talking, laughing, or singing in the middle of the chest, or sensation roughness and hoarseness of the voice. Phthisis of the larynx. In those withered young people, a young man when he is not more than 25 looks to be 50. Many wrinkles as though he had had many cares. Has a dry cough, gets up a little grey mucus. Yet he may be somewhat wiry, getting about fairly well. Has inherited phthisis. The cough is a deep cough, is aggravated from laughing, talking and in a warm room. Laughing causes cough and causes mucus in the larynx. This remedy will turn aside this threatening phthisis, this dry teasing cough. A little dry, hacking cough especially comes under this remedy. In no instance are we likely to have those violent spasmodic shaking coughs, such as we find in Boericke. When coughing, a sore feeling in the larynx. The cough is accompanied with an easy expectoration. He does not usually cough so much to get up the mucus as he does to relieve a little irritation, but when there is mucus it generally comes up easily. It is not so difficult to detach as we find in many remedies. Easily detached mucus in the larynx. He simply scrapes it out by an effort of the larynx. Cough and scraping of the larynx during the daytime and evening, worse in a warm room and better in the open air and from motion. It is a sense of weakness of the chest. There are two remedies having this weakness of the chest and you cannot easily tell them apart. Weak voice, weak chest, a feeling that it is so difficult to breathe, and so difficult to talk, and so difficult to cough, because the muscles of the chest feel so weak. These two medicines are Argentum met and Stannum. Great weakness of the muscles of the chest. The patient dwells upon it much. And it is a weakness far beyond what can be accounted for in tuberculosis, a sense of muscular weakness in the chest. A paralytic weakness of the chest. Of course, this is wholly different from the antimonium tart, which has a dreadful weakness of the chest. But in that remedy you will remember it is in the acute affections. It is suitable in lingering complaints, sickness of long standing. So that great weakness of the chest means that which I have tried to describe, and it is that which patients will often fail in their efforts to describe. Doctor, I feel so weak in the chest. Now, this remedy is full of cardiac disturbances. Palpitation when lying on the back. A sense of trembling in the chest. A sense of quivering, fluttering, or trembling, as it will be described by the different patients, trembling in the chest. That tremulous weakness of the whole body, hands and feet, palpitation with general trembling is strong in this remedy. Frequent palpitation. During pregnancy, palpitation. Palpitation at night. Palpitation associated with headaches. With general weakness. Gradually increasing weakness. From his general weakness the knees knock together when walking. Trembling in the knees with palpitation and general weakness. The limbs become stiff. Numbness in the limbs, as if asleep. Loss of power. Many of the complaints are increased during rest. Pain in the back and limbs while sitting, better while walking. All the nervous excitement that is possible in remedies comes up in this remedy. Thanks for watching this video. If you want more videos like Argentum metallicum, please subscribe to this channel and press the bell icon. To learn homeopathy course online free with Homeopathy Materia Medica. Comment us your feedback and what you want in the next video. Like and share this video with your friends and family. For paid and free consultancy online, visit homeopathymedicines.com and maishclinic.com. Thank you. Have a nice day. Stay healthy, stay happy.